You know you can surprise. Oh, you know you can surprise. Just let go and surprise yourself. Surprise yourself. You know you can surprise yourself. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, oh, 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 hey. Thank you. Come and see me.
So please join me in giving a warm, warm welcome to Reverend Dr. Penny Macek.
Good morning, everybody. What a delight to be with you. Thank you, Linda, for that introduction, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your process. Jarrett, wow. It's really, really good. You know, there's some days when you get up to speak where you don't even have to speak because the musician's already said everything you want to say. And so I could just sit down and we could listen to you again. As you heard, I've been here since Thursday facilitating the co-creation process for your community, which many of you participated in on Thursday night. Co-creation is a consciousness that's created when deep healing occurs and then creates an opening for newness to happen. And so that idea of stepping into newness and honoring the mystery, because oftentimes we can't see what's in front of us quite yet. And so how do we let ourselves just rest in that place? And I am so grateful to be the one that you chose to come in and to walk with you in this time of change, this time of transition. And I suspect those of you that were here on Thursday night and then Friday and Saturday, that we've discovered a few things about yourself and your community, right? We saw some things that maybe we didn't have full understanding about before we started that process, and that's the real important part, because discovery is what creates the opening for the change to happen and for us to then be able to step into that change. And I want to begin by just saying I just absolutely honor all of the work that has ever been done by any minister that has ever served this community, and thank them. And then I would say this to you, and there's more. And there's more. There's more good for you to have. There's more to be done through you because it is you. It's wanting to express as you, and it's the deep call that's on our heart right here and right now. As good as your God is, there is a greater expression to be had. And the way Dr. Holmes would say that is we can't have a revelation greater than our realization. So it's all about a deeper realization. Oftentimes I call my mentor and I'll be whining about something and she'll say, Penny, you simply need a bigger God. You simply need a bigger God. And so how do we expand that awareness? How do we let ourselves have that greater realization so that the revelation can come and be a part of what's unfolding for us? You heard that I currently serve at New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix, but I served the Center for Spiritual Living in Tahoe, Truckee for 10 years. Some people ask, you left Tahoe to go to Phoenix? I've been asking myself that a lot the last couple of months. And when I was in Tahoe, a member of our community and a practitioner of our community by the name of Donna Axton, she's a brilliant musician. She was married to Hoyt Axton. Hoyt did Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog. Remember that song? But Donna was as equally as brilliant in music as Hoyt. And one day I was attending a concert that she was conducting and directing the local community college in a song that she and the Broadway producer Chip Morales had put together. It's called This Most Perfect Day. And I want to share the chorus of that song with you because it really helps us to understand some of the movement that you're experiencing right here, right now, and how to navigate that. I won't sing it because I don't want to empty the room. But the chorus is this: the past perfect delights our memory. The future perfect reveals its mystery. In timeless progression, no thought can betray our present perfection in the heart of this most perfect day. And as I listened to that song that night, I was immediately reminded of something that Dr. Holmes said many, many times. He said, perfect right unfoldment is always taking place. Perfect right unfoldment is always taking place. Now, it's easy for us to have faith and say perfect right unfoldment is taking place when there's money in the bank, when we have a really nice job, when we're in love, when our health is good, when we have a senior minister, when we love the people around us. Take any one of those things or a few of those things away, and I wonder how many of us are willing to belt out that idea, our present perfection in the heart of the most perfect day. If you're anything like me, I sing a whole different song. Much of what I can't repeat from up here. And so, what do we hold on to when it doesn't look perfect? What do we hold on to? I mean, what do we hold on to right now out in the world when it doesn't look perfect? What do you hold on to right now in your community when it doesn't look perfect, it doesn't feel perfect? And for me, what I hold on to are the promises of God because they're filled with wisdom. And one of my favorite promises comes from the book of Jeremiah. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and hope. And so sometimes we have to hang out in the hope. And you know, as religious scientists, we've been pretty righteous about hope. Don't hope, no. Have you ever heard yourself say that to somebody? Don't hope, no. But hope is the beginning stage of deepening our faith, building our faith. It's the very first thing that we have to have in order for forward movement to navigate when it doesn't look perfect, that we hope for something else. And co-creation gives us all the tools to face our fears more consciously, because one of the ways that we deepen our faith is to face our fears more consciously. Not deny them, not push them away, not run away, but to sit right in the muck, in the moment, and deal with what's right in front of us. And when we do that, we are reminded of the creative process of life, and that the ultimate thing in the creative process of life is wisdom. And that wisdom that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the wisdom of your mind. I'm talking about the wisdom of our heart that's infused with a power and a creativity and a potency that makes itself known no matter what the outer appearance looks like. It's the understanding of the heart. There's a deep felt sense of knowingness with wisdom. There's a certainty. There's not doubt. There's not worry. There's not fear. There's not frustration. There's a certainty with wisdom. And I see wisdom and understanding as two sides of the same coin. And I think they are absolutely vitally important to the spiritual journey. And most particularly at this time in your community, but also in the world at large. And what do I mean by that? Why do I say that? Your next best idea, my next best idea, is not going to solve some of the conditions in the world right now. Your next best idea about your community from the level of the mind is not going to solve it. But if you tap into the wisdom within you, into that creative potential within you, It will demonstrate and manifest itself over and over again. In the book of Proverbs, wisdom is talked about. Actually, wisdom is talked about a lot in sacred scriptures. But my favorite one is, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Get understanding. And yet there's a paradox, because somewhere else in scriptures it says, lean not on your own understanding. Right? Because we have to come together, first and foremost, on the inside of ourselves into that holy relationship that is with the divine. And then when we stand with one another out in the world, even in the face of our differences, we have great power in that. I believe that Jesus was one of the greatest wisdom teachers that there was. And do you know the tool that he used the most to share that wisdom or to teach that wisdom? Anybody know? Parables, that's right. And did you know that every parable is about you and your mind? Every parable was about us and our mind. I was thinking about it this morning and I thought, I wonder if that's why Dr. Holmes was so influenced by Jesus. Because they were both intrigued by the power of the mind. And so I want to share one of those parables with you this morning to take us in a direction. It's the parable of the sower. You may be familiar with that parable. That the sower went out to sow seeds. And the sower was throwing seeds, and some of the seed fell on the wayside. And it got scorched and it didn't grow. And we're told that some of the seeds fell on stony places. And that it began to grow, but because there was no moisture and there was no depth, that eventually as the sun came up, it too got scorched and devoured and died. And then we're told that some of the seed fell on thorny ground. And that seed began to sprout and to grow, but then the thorns choked the life out of the seed. And where the final place that the seed lands is on good ground. And that seed took root and it grew. And it says in the parable that there was a harvest out of that. Some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. And as Jesus finished telling that parable, he said, let those that have the ears to hear, hear. Let them hear. And so if every parable is about us and our mind, what we see is there's 4 types of mind that we possibly operate through as we're walking through life. The first type of mind is the wayside mind. That's an unresponsible, impenetrable mind. That's a mind that has closed the doors and windows and says, no more ideas, no more information. La, 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 I don't want to hear it. I can see some of you identify with that mind. And then there's the stony mind. That's a mind that knows a little bit about truth. But this mind lacks spiritual practice in the embodiment of that truth. There's no depth, there's no moisture, there's no marinating in what it knows. There's no stilling itself long enough. And then there's the thorny mind. This mind is rich with possibilities. But it has weeds. It has previous occupants, we could say. And it doesn't allow for new arrivals very easily. I was thinking about this morning too, and I thought, wow, probably many of us need to have an Occupy movement in our own mind, right? And then there's the good ground or the good mind. That's the receptive mind. That's the mind of Christ. That's the mind that recognizes the principle and the presence and the power and the authority that is right inside of itself. Both Dr. Holmes and Jesus said, as you sow, so shall you reap. And the parable promises us something. It promises us a harvest. And it doesn't promise us a little harvest, 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold harvest. And so my question for you this morning with regard to your community and with regard to this new minister idea, How big of a harvest are you expecting? How big of a harvest are you ready for? How big of a harvest are you preparing for? The percentage of the return depends on 4 things for you to keep in mind as you navigate this process together. And those 4 things are the type of mind, the amount of resistance, the depth of faith, and the power of agreement. Those 4 things. So let's talk about them quickly for a moment. The mind. Obviously, every one of those minds that I pointed to are going to provide. They're going to have a harvest. But only the mind of Christ is going to give you 100% return. That's the only mind that gives you 100% return. And our whole journey is about Christ consciousness, coming into putting on the mind of Christ and letting ourselves sit in that. The second thing that it's dependent upon is the amount of resistance. Thomas Troward said that all human suffering is the result of our resistance to change. All human suffering is the result of our resistance to change. And Dr. Holmes talks about it in the Science of Mind textbook. He says, nature will not let us stay in any place too long. She'll let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul. This is a wise provision, for should we stay there too long, we would become too set, too rigid, too inflexible. Nature demands the change in order that we may advance. And when the change comes, we should welcome it with a smile on our lips and a song in our heart. How many of you welcome change with a smile on your lips and a song in your heart? My spiritual teacher says, Penny, there's nothing I let go of that doesn't have deep claw marks in it. Deep claw marks. And then our faith. What role does faith play? And how do we deepen our faith? For those of you that were with me on Thursday night and Friday, you saw that. We face our fears. There's another parable about the parable of the mustard seed. And what I think is if you have a little faith, you get a little healing. And if you have deep faith, you get the 100-fold return that we're talking about, that we're pointing to, that we're initiating. And so that having the willingness to deepen our faith by not running away from our fear, but facing our fear and speaking to it and naming it so that we can lay it down. And then we have the 4th element that is a part of how big our harvest will be, and that's the power of agreement. I personally believe that we have a lot of agreement about problems. If we look out into the world and maybe even into your community, we've got a lot of agreement about problems and very little agreement about principles. And we saw that the other night. And it's time for us to stop having problem prayers and agreement about problems and shift our focus over to principle and demonstrations of principles. And so you might be wondering, well, what the heck does the parable of the sower have to do with our co-creation process and where we are? The seed of new minister has been sown. And I wonder what type of mind it's fallen on. What type of mind it's fallen on. Has it fallen on that wayside mind, that closed mind? Doesn't want to hear about it, doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to be involved? Or has it fallen on that stony mind that knows a little bit of the principles and the truth, but really isn't practicing? We know it's fallen on some thorny minds because if you were in the room Thursday night, wow. We heard some of the beliefs that people hold about ministers. But we also, on Friday night, saw some deeper thorns, some deeper things in the collective consciousness of the group. There's probably a slide coming up here soon that... No, that's not the one. That's the pretty one. Well, we saw the thorns, the thorn of separation, the thorn of rejection, the thorn of not enough. All these false beliefs that are held in the collective consciousness of this community. Not a bad thing, it happens in every community. But now we have an understanding of where we've been creating from. And the 12 people that were with me over the course of the last 2 days are ready to shift to a new way of being. And we're going to ask you to join us in that shift, because what happens in a co-creation process is we create what we call a sacred covenant. And a sacred covenant declares how we see our relationship with God unfolding, and in this case, how we see our relationship with our new minister unfolding. And it's grounded in a purpose and a promise and intentions and visions. And I'll tell everybody here what I've told those that have been with me over the course of the last 3 days. The only way that you attract to you the minister that you are looking to have is by becoming that minister yourself. Because we can't have what we aren't willing to give. And so this is really about finding the minister inside of yourself and letting that minister rise up and then attract that one into your midst to be able to be a part of that. The sacred covenant that your community created, your leadership, the people that were involved for the last 2 days, is rooted and grounded in the principle of love. Because we went back to the creative process and we said, what's the highest level of where we want to demonstrate this one from? And love was what rose up, partly because of the input that so many of you gave when you turned your pages in. We looked at what were the qualities that rose to the surface, and love was the thing that rose up. And then we took all the input from the things that interest you, that are personally appealing to you. And we looked at those things too. Because we talk about this idea of in a ministry, there are 3 universal pieces. There's the preacher, the teacher, and the healer. And then there's community interests that happen. And so the 2 things that rose up because of what all of you submitted was prosperity teachings and fiscal responsibility. And the idea of mystical teachings. When we say mystical teachings, what I believe that means is how do we live in that holy union inside of ourselves? And I personally believe with every fiber of my being, our world is crying for that right now. How do all of us come into that place inside of ourselves where we know that we are one with the one, and that love moves out from us every time we speak, every time we show up, every time we engage with another, that love is who we are. And so this covenant that is a powerful covenant that each of you are going to have the opportunity to be a part of, continuing to seed and look at where in your mind, what type of mind do you come to the covenant with in order to co-create with your community in a way that allows something greater to happen. I use a daily reader, and not too long ago, I read something and I thought how powerful it was and how important it was. It said this: sometimes in life, you have to have enough faith to make an irrevocable commitment. Sometimes in life, we have to make that irrevocable commitment. And sometimes in life, that irrevocable commitment means I lay something down so that I can pick up something new. That even though I can't see it, even though I don't know quite what it is yet, that I'm willing to take a step in its direction for the unfoldment of it, and trust that if when I align inside of myself, that wise one in me guides, guards, and directs me every step of the way, and it is perfect. And so if you're a part of this community and you're willing to make an irrevocable commitment to finding the minister within you, so that you find the minister for your community. I would ask you to please stand, and we're going to get a copy of the Sacred Covenant into your hands right now. And we'll read it together. This is the power of the combined agreement that we begin to see this morning for the fulfillment of that which is wanting to express itself and move through this community. So what you have before you, we've taken the components. What you have before you, we have taken the components of the Sacred Covenant and we've put it into a 5-step treatment. That this is an opportunity to be in continuous prayer with regard to the minister for this community. So if you join me at the very top and read it out loud with me today. Sacred Covenant Easy Prayer for the Center for Spiritual Living, Salt Lake City. There's only one life. This life is good. This life is God. This life is my life now. In knowing that I am one with this life that is God, I therefore know that I am one with all its blessed expressions, which includes the presence of a new minister for my beloved spiritual community. Because I know that the highest purpose of my new minister is to glorify God, I therefore know that my new minister is the revelation of God as love. I further know that my new minister is the fulfillment of that which has been promised by God. For it is written, love points the way, the law makes the way possible. Love is harmonious, vital, and complete. As I stand in agreement with my beloved community, I see my new minister revealed before me as living and celebrating the power of love. I now intend to experience my new minister in full cooperation and agreement with my community, knowing this truth about myself. For I am centered in spirit, grounded in principle, and an engaging, inspiring communicator. I am awakened to and inspired by the wisdom within me. I am compassionately applying principles, revealing wholeness. I am fully embodying spirit as source and live principle generously. I am experiencing a direct connection with the divine and revealing its relevance in the world today through mystical teachings. As I now accept the highest expression of a new minister into my life, I know that it is revealed in a way that glorifies God and serves the highest and greatest good of all who are touched by their presence. I am grateful. God is gracious. Amen. You may be seated. I invite you to add your own personal intention there. What do you personally want to receive from your new minister? And to add a transpersonal intention to that prayer as well. Would you like to see the new minister contribute to this community? I invite you to also, if you're willing, as part of your own daily dedicated spiritual practice, to pray this prayer for the next 30 days. And then your community is going to look at ways that you regularly dip into it together to continue to seed for the 100% return of what has been declared here. This is an amazing, amazing covenant. Your community has done extraordinary work these last 3 days. Thursday night was the biggest piece and part of that because of what got loosened in the light and the love that entered into the community. And so I would leave you with this idea. Honor the mystery of the process. Honor the mystery of the process. It is unfolding perfectly. The past perfect delights your memory. The future perfect reveals its mystery. In timeless progression, no thought can betray our present perfection in the heart of this most perfect day. The perfect minister is already within each and every one of you. Allow that one to shine, to shine, to shine, to shine. I will have you in my prayers. I have been blessed by being in your presence. God bless, and so it is. So let us pray, and I just invite the practitioners to come forward. And so it is in this most holy and sacred moment that we join together, heart to heart, mind to mind, soul to soul, in that great truth that there is only one life. This life is good, this life is God, and this life is perfectly individualized in each of us. Right where we are, the power, the presence, the authority, the wisdom, the creativity, the love of God is. For this is all that God is. And so we open ourselves to be that instrument through which the One continues to reveal itself in glorious ways, expansive ways. I declare that this center, the Center for Spiritual Living, Salt Lake, is a divine idea in the mind of God whose time has come to grow and to prosper, to thrive, to move into that greater yet to be. And I know that there's an openness and a receptivity within each and every one that is within the sound of my voice, a part of this community, that all resistance melts, all fear is dissolved, because love is doing a mighty work on the inside and the outside, guiding, guarding, and directing us every step of the way. And so we give ourselves to love. And we find the minister within, each of us, a minister, ministering to our family, ministering to in our work environment, ministering to one another. And so the rising tide of love is lifting us. It is healing us. It is transforming us. It is making us new, so that we may come again and again and again to the altar of consciousness as a pure, holy opening for love to pour itself. So I declare for this community grace and ease in the process. I declare for this community clarity. I declare for this community a unity, an awareness of the oneness, the ability to stand together even in differing opinions, and allow for the values to rise up in a greater way. I declare for this community that the new ministers already known in the mind of God making their way here. And I declare for this community in an expanded expression that is greater than anything that has gone before, because the opening in the consciousness of each of these beloveds is greater than ever before. I give great thanks for the honor and the privilege of speaking this word, for witnessing the healing and witnessing the process. I give great thanks for the honor and the privilege of saying yes to all that has been claimed for this community, to tie my agreement to it. And just as Dr. Holmes said, when a group of people come together in one thought and one accord, a greater power is generated. So we've unleashed the power, and we now prepare ourselves as a chalice of expectancy to receive, to accept, to allow, to embrace, to take the manifestation and the demonstration all the way in, to receive it. It is here now, for the minister within is already within the room. So I give great thanks for all of it. As I cast this word forth into the law, knowing that it is done, the law says yes. Yes, my beloved, exactly according to your belief. Knowing that our belief is firmly rooted in the truth, together we accept it by simply saying, and so it is.